Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Talking Pro Football. I'm Michael Carlyle. We'll look back at the rest of Week 15, and then we'll get you ready for Week 16 in the National Football League. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and all that good stuff to everybody out there. We're getting down to the nitty-gritty. The playoff chase is on. Let's start with the remainder of Week 15. We had 3 games moved this week due to COVID problems. We wound up with 2 Monday night games, a pair of games on Tuesday. Let's start with those Monday games. Daniel Carlson hits a 48-yard field goal as time expires. The Raiders get the 16-14 win over the Browns. Las Vegas keeps their slim playoff hopes alive. They're now 7-7, a blow to the Browns, but that AFC North is still awful congested. They're still in the thick of it. They're 7-7 as well. The other Monday game, the Vikings, no real surprise here, 17-9 over the Bears. The Bears are just a bad football team. They're headed in the wrong direction. Vikings, they stay alive. They're 7-7 now. The Bears, they fall to 4-10. Then we had the Tuesday games. We'll start in L.A. The Rams, ravaged by COVID, didn't matter. They beat the Seahawks 20-10. Rams now 10-4. Seahawks are 5-9, and your second game on Tuesday that wrapped up Week 15 in the National Football League, the Eagles, they improved to 7-7. They beat Washington 27-17. Washington drops to 6-8, and I hate to say this, with a few games left and a bunched up wild card hunt in the NFC, but Washington probably done now at 6-8. There are a lot of teams between them and one of those wild card spots, so it's going to be tough for them. Let's look at the standings and the playoff picture. We'll start in the AFC, and we'll start in the East. The Patriots at 9-5. They lead the division. That's followed by Buffalo at 8-6, Miami at 7-7, and the Jets, they're 3-11. In the AFC North, Cincinnati's 8-6. The Ravens are 8-6. Steelers 7-6-1. The Browns 7-7. There are a lot of teams vying for playoff spots there, and that division's still wide open. In the South, Tennessee hanging on at 9-5, but the Colts right behind them at 8-6. Then you've got Houston 3-11, Jacksonville just 2-12. And in the AFC West, Kansas City 10-4, Chargers 8-6, Vegas and the Broncos are both 7-7. Now, as far as the playoff picture in the AFC, your top 4 seeds right now would be Kansas City, New England, Tennessee, and Cincinnati. Then you've got the Colts at 8-6, the Chargers 8-6, Buffalo 8-6 would be your 3 wild cards at the moment. And I say at the moment because you've got the Ravens at 8-6 on the outside looking in, Steelers 7-6-1, the Raiders 7-7, the Dolphins 7-7, Cleveland 7-7, and for now at least we'll keep the Broncos in the mix as well because they're 7-7. Also, you've got 13 teams vying for a playoff spot over in the AFC. Now, the NFC, it's pretty competitive as well. We'll start in the East. The Cowboys are 10-4. They lead that division. Philly is 7-7, Washington 6-8, and the Giants 4-10. In the North, Green Bay, they've already clinched the division. They're 11-3. Minnesota keeping their playoff hopes alive at 7-7. Bears 4-10. The red hot Detroit Lions, he said facetiously, 2-11-1. In the NFC South, Tampa Bay's 10-4. The Saints are 7-7. They're hanging around for a wild card spot. Falcons 6-8. Carolina 5-9. And in the NFC West, Arizona and the Rams both 10-4. The Niners are 8-6, and Seattle is 5-9. As far as the playoff hunt in the NFC, you've got Green Bay, Dallas, Tampa, and Arizona. They would be your top 4 seeds in that order. But then you've got the Rams at 10-4, the Niners at 8-6, Minnesota at 7-7. They would be your 3 wild cards at the moment. But you've got the Eagles and Saints both 7-7, and then Washington and Atlanta at 6-8, hanging right around. You can probably count out the Panthers and Seahawks at this point. They're both 5-9, but still a lot of interest and intrigue as we head into Week 16 and the rest of the season. A couple news and notes real quick. A couple things wanted to point out. And, of course, COVID's still wreaking a lot of havoc on the National Football League. As of now, as we tape on Thursday morning. All the games still scheduled to be played as scheduled, but you've got the Saints, the Eagles. You got a number of teams dealing with COVID issues, and at the very least, you're going to have a lot of teams without some key players. We may still see some games moved when it's all said and done. We're going to have to see how all that plays out. But how much of a difference does one player make? And I would tell you, generally speaking, especially on a loaded team, not that much. But let's look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for a second. This season, with Antonio Brown, Tampa Bay's 5-0. Without him, they're 5-4. Tom Brady, 16 touchdowns to 3 interceptions with Antonio Brown. Without him, 20 touchdowns, 8 interceptions without him. Brady's got a quarterback rating of 109.2 with Antonio Brown. Without him, 95.6. Again, not bad numbers for Brady without Antonio Brown, but put it like this. There's a reason Bruce Arians took some heat this week for backtracking a little bit on Antonio Brown based on what he said last year when they signed him. It was something along the lines of, look, we're going to watch him carefully. One misstep and he's gone. Well, this season, Brown gets suspended for faking a COVID vaccination card. He serves the suspension, and they're welcoming him back with open arms. There's a reason for that. With the injuries they've got and with the struggles they've had at times, they need Antonio Brown. So sometimes you turn a bit of a blind eye. How good is Derrick Henry? Derrick Henry is still in the top 5 in the NFL in rushing yards and rushing touchdowns this season. Remember, he hasn't played since October. Some interesting news, and this is going to be something to keep an eye on this offseason. With their loss this past week, the Seahawks have assured themselves of finishing with a losing record for the first time since Russell Wilson became their starting quarterback. And I point this out because remember in the offseason, all the questions surrounding Wilson and the Seahawks. Did he want to still be there? Did he demand a trade? Did he not? Now, look, he's also been injured, so it's been a bit of a busted season from that standpoint. But you have to wonder long-term how much the front office is going to evaluate where they're at right now and what changes they're going to want to make. I still think you want Russell Wilson. He's still young enough that you can build around him, but it will be curious to see what happens with the Seahawks and if they decide to go in a different direction, see what kind of haul they can get in draft picks and players with moving him and maybe not a rebuild, but a refurbish, if you will. Again, I still think they keep him. I think that's the smart move, but if he's not happy and you're looking to make a change, this might be the offseason if you are the Seahawks. All right, let's jump right in. Week 16 in the National Football League. It kicks off on Thursday night, and this should be a really interesting game. You've got the Tennessee Titans. They're at home. They are 3-point underdogs against the San Francisco 49ers. Niners have won 5 and 6. The Titans have lost 3 of 4. And look, Tennessee, the defense is playing well. They're allowing less than 200 yards of offense in 2 of the last 3 games. The Niners' rushing offense has been doing well. The Titans, they're just trying to hang on here. It looks like they'll get Derrick Henry back for the playoffs if they can hang on. They are still your leaders in the AFC South, but this is a team that really misses their stud running back. As we mentioned, the Niners are playing really well right now. I do like San Francisco to go into Tennessee and come away with the victory. On Saturday, Christmas Day, will start it in Green Bay. The Packers, they've already clinched the division. They're 7.5-point favorites against the Browns. And quite honestly, while the Packers don't necessarily need this game, let's not kid ourselves. Even though they've clinched the division, they're still playing for a lot. They want to lock down home field advantage for the playoffs if they can. The Browns have been up. They've been down. It looks like they'll have Baker Mayfield back. We'll have to wait and make sure how that plays out. But while the Browns need this one more, I think the Packers are just the better team here. I like Green Bay getting the Christmas Day win. Your other Christmas Day game, and this one will be probably a little more interesting, the Arizona Cardinals, 2-point favorites against the Colts. Remember, Arizona coming off that terrible loss to the lowly Lions. They are back at home, though. I think Kyler Murray bounces back and makes some good plays. But the Colts are playing really well right now, and I like Indy a lot. They still, theoretically at least, can chase down the Tennessee Titans in that division. I think this game's going to come down to the wire. I'm actually going to pick the Colts here. Arizona, we talked earlier about Tom Brady and his struggles without Antonio Brown. Well, remember the Cardinals without DeAndre Hopkins until the playoffs. The run game has suddenly become very ordinary. That offense looks a bit stagnant. I think the Colts find a way to get the win here. I'm going to take Indy. All right, then we move on to Sunday. We'll start with the early games in Cincinnati. The Bengals, a 2.5-point favorite against the Ravens. I don't know what to make of Baltimore. Now, obviously, they've had injuries. Lamar Jackson's been dealing with the ankle. He didn't play last week. But this is a team that has struggled a bit. Cincinnati, sometimes they look really good. Sometimes they look really average. They're a young team, so you can kind of understand why you see those ups and downs. This one's probably going to come back to bite me. I'm going to go with the tried and true. Assuming Lamar Jackson is back for the Ravens, I'm going to take Baltimore on the road to pull off the upset here. Then you've got the Buffalo Bills at the Patriots. Round 2 in this battle for the AFC East. The Patriots 2-point favorites against Buffalo. Now, they're coming off a rough game against Indy. Bills seem like they're back on track. This game probably will decide the AFC East. Remember, New England won the first matchup. Mac Jones has a 102.5 passer rating at home this season. This one probably will be low scoring, especially with that Patriots defense. I'm going to take New England slightly at home here. The Houston Texans are at home. They're big underdogs, though. The LA Chargers come in. Chargers 10.5-point favorites. Remember, they lost last Thursday against the Chiefs. They blew that lead. I think they kind of bounce back in this one. Look, the Texans are the Texans, and that means they're just not a good football team. I will take the Chargers here in this one. The Detroit Lions are on the road. They're at the Falcons. Falcons 4.5-point favorites at home. I joked about the Lions being red hot earlier. For them, they are red hot. They've got a couple of wins in their last 3 games. They haven't won on the road this season, though. Falcons, they've got to find a run game to help out Matt Ryan in the passing game. I don't expect this one to be pretty at all. As a matter of fact, it's probably going to be ugly, but I'll take the Falcons at home in a knockdown, drag-out, ugly kind of way type game. Vikings are at home. They need this one to stay in the playoff hunt in the NFC. They're 3-point underdogs against the Rams. Rams have been up and down, but they're 10-4, and they're 10-4 for a reason. This will be a nice little test for them against a playoff contender in the Minnesota Vikings. I do like the Rams, though, to go on the road and come away with the victory. Another one of the early games on Sunday, and another ugly game probably on Sunday. The Jacksonville Jaguars, they're 2.5-point underdogs on the road against the Jets. Both these teams in a battle with the Lions for the number 1 overall pick in the 2022 draft. Remember, Jacksonville fired Urban Meyer last week. The Jets will most likely be without their head coach who tested positive for COVID earlier in the week. There is a chance that Robert Saleh could still be on the sidelines. We'll have to see how that plays out. You got 2 rookie quarterbacks here in Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson. Jacksonville has just been ugly all season long. I don't expect them to get much better. They didn't seem to really show any more signs of life without Urban Meyer last week. One of the few times this season you're going to hear me say this, I'll take the Jets at home. The Philadelphia Eagles are at home. They're big favorites, 10-point favorites in an NFC East matchup against the Giants. Eagles are on a short week after playing Washington on Tuesday. Remember, they lost to the Giants 13-7 in the first meeting earlier this season. Jalen Hurts looked good against Washington after coming back from the ankle injury. Giants quarterback situation is in a tough spot. You've got Mike Glennon and Jake Fromm battling for the start with no Daniel Jones the rest of the way. Eagles are playing really good right now. I'll take them to get the win over the Giants. The Carolina Panthers are at home against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Brady and company, they've struggled a bit. Remember, Chris Godwin done for the season now. Mike Evans has got injuries. This will be an interesting game. I'm curious to see how the Bucs bounce back after the loss this past week. I do think they bounce back, though. Carolina is a team that's just headed in the wrong direction, and this just seems like the type of game that gets Brady and company, at least for a week, back on track. I'll take the Buccaneers. Your afternoon games on Sunday will start in Seattle. The Seahawks are a 7-point favorite at home against the Bears. For all intents and purposes, Seattle's season is over. As we mentioned earlier, they've locked in a losing season for the first time since Russell Wilson became quarterback. Theoretically,